Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The 30-day guidelines to stay home from the federal government amount to a national stay-at-home order. Is that how you see it, too?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at what's in those 30-day recommendations of the guidelines, that's essentially what it is. I mean, I know it's difficult, but we're having a lot of suffering, a lot of death. This is inconvenient from an economic and a personal standpoint, but we just have to do it. That is our major weapon against this virus right now. And we can get through it if everybody really leans forward and pushes on this.
That's Dr. Fauci. You hear his voice, pretty recognizable now. I think everybody in the world knows who he is. 30 days. Could we do it? Well, we have no choice. I mean, we're in this right now. Here's the thing that's different compared to other countries. We're 50 countries in one country. Every state gets to do their own thing, right? California, New York, they're buttoned up right now. More so in New York, getting there in California. Arizona different, Texas different. Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, a lot of difference going on there. Wyoming, different. What do we do? Do we do 30 days? All of us? Is that fair to a place like Wyoming or North Dakota, South Dakota, of just over 100 plus? And I think, I think Montana or Wyoming doesn't even have a death. Is that fair to them? Is this what we do? Is it coming to them? Is it not coming to them? Do we do it as a nation and say, look, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. It's a tough thing, right? As somebody who's more, independent libertarian, I'm about states' rights. Let states do their own thing. Do I understand this is something that is extraordinary? Yes. But Fauci isn't the only one. Dr. Lipkin.
There's an impact of isolating people. What we need to do, though, now is make some sort of a concerted decision. I think it should be made at the national level as to what we're going to do. Because if we have a haphazard patch quilt of some states do one thing and other states do another, it's very difficult to know where we're going to go. President Trump, at this point, he clearly has a mandate to make whatever decisions he thinks are most in the public interest.
And I think a lot of people are looking at the president for that. Now, is the mandate, this is what we're doing, everybody's indoors, unless essential workers. Essential workers are not what some states have as, essentially essential workers. Some states they're very vague in some of their orders. But are we saying, all right, 30 days indoors, that's it. We're inside for 30 days. Essential workers are people who are transporting food. Food, right? Food. Do we shut down all fast food restaurants and all restaurants altogether, and everybody goes and only gets their food from local grocery store, convenience store, liquor store, because people are going to need liquor. You're going to have to keep that open. People need their liquor. Do we do that? Do we make it uniform across the country? But we do it until May 1st or May 15th, and then we say after that, if this thing, because hiding from it doesn't make the monster go away. So we give the best of the best of the best 45 days, 35 days, whatever it is, to come up with some sort of treatment that can take us from putting all of this pressure on our medical community and our healthcare community to flattening out that curve. Do we do that? Somebody's got to do something, right? And I look at this and I say, we either go for it or we look and say, we're going to try the herd immunity. Young, healthy, older, whoever who feels that they can go out and participate in the world, you go out and you do it. Everybody else who has compromised immune system, everybody else who's old and maybe in a situation where if they got this, it would turn serious, you guys stay in and we move on. But right now, what we're doing is we're tap dancing in, out, in, out, in, out. We got to stop that. We need to pick a path. We need to pick the lane, and then we need to pick our off ramp. We need to do this, and it's time for Trump because, as Dr. Lipkin said there, this kind of hodgepodge of quilted together things probably isn't going to work the way that some would hope it does. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. Job numbers, ugly. And that's just the beginning of ugly. These numbers we would wish we had these numbers next month.
The U.S. economy lost 701,000 jobs in March, most of them in the leisure and hospitality sector as restaurants, bars, and tourism shut down due to coronavirus. The unemployment rate jumped nearly a full percentage point to 4.4%. The Labor Department said much of the data predated business and school closures during the second half of the month, so the true picture of the workforce is likely much worse.
Yeah. So we jumped a full point. I wouldn't be surprised if we get up to 10 next month. I mean, it depends on where we go and how we get there. Today, they're rolling out the small business loans. I've got a couple buddies who have said, you know what, we don't need it, but we're going to take it. We're going to stick it there just in case. And they're in a position where they say, we're lucky, but we don't know what's going to happen. Businesses today that are operating who think, you know what, we're doing okay. They may find out in the coming 48 hours, 72 hours that they're going to have to shut down because you don't know what's going to happen. There's anticipation every single day for press conferences, waiting for some sort of announcement through the weekend, what may happen. You just don't know. So some people are going to err on the side of cautions, and some people, it's tough. I talked to a small business owner yesterday who said, all of it sounds great, right? We're going to help you with this. We're going to give you this loan if you keep your people employed. That sounds great. The problem is this only lasts so long. So what does it look like a month and a half, 2 months from now, when the money runs out again? And I look around and I say to myself, what do I do? Right? What do I do now? I took out a loan to pay other people to try to keep my lights on. And in doing so, I still haven't been the all clear to go back to work. That's the fear that people are having at this moment in time in small businesses is, when am I going to be allowed to operate again? When am I going to be allowed to go out? And when I do get to go out and operate, what does it even look like? People are going to be coming out of this in dire financial straits. Some people are going to be coming out of this, and the only thing they're going to be able to do is file for bankruptcy. Businesses are going to be folding, and even when you get to the other side and you've survived it, it's not like it's going to go back to the way it was. Your customers now don't have as much money. Your customers now are in financial peril, so you don't need as many workers. It's a crazy situation, and that's the problem with not knowing. And I'd rather, if I was Trump, I'd rather say we're going to give it this many days. This is what's going to happen. This is the path that I've tried to give everybody the opportunity to do, but this is what we need to do. And that may even be a situation where we say we're going to restrict travel. We're going to talk about that. Should we restrict travel? And by that, I mean shut shop from state to state. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. A lot of other stuff to talk about that's not bleak, including new research, new hope. And when you see how fast we're moving, it is truly amazing compared to could you imagine what it would be like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, if this thing would have popped up out of nowhere? Could you imagine what that would look like? How fast we work today through technology? It's nuts. It is. It is incredible. I work with an amazing organization called Wounded Paw, woundedpawproject.org. Check them out. So this is what they do, and it is incredible. They rescue dogs that would be euthanized, and they train them. So they take them from shelter dogs to service dogs. And not only did they help the veterans, and that's how it started, but it also helped the first responders. And think about our first responders right now. Our nurses, our doctors, our EMTs, our paramedics, our firemen, our police officers, who in a day-to-day world of normal kind of things put their lives at risk. And now, knowing that there's something out there, there's a lot of struggle. They're getting hit up all the time, Wounded Paw, that they need another animal to help with a family, a veteran, a first responder. And you can help now, too. Their motto is to save a paw is to save a life. You can take action today by donating and turning your extra car, truck, RV, even a boat into a vehicle for change. You're going to be saving a paw to save a life. What you do is you donate. It's simple. It's easy. They come pick up the car, truck, RV, right? Get great tax deductible donation. And on top of that, you can give cash as well. They take that money and use the proceeds to protect, advocate, and transform shelter dogs into service dogs. Check out everything they're doing at woundedpawproject.org or call 844-678-4PAW, 844-678-4729 or woundedpawproject.org. Chad Benson Show.
Boys, give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent, a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
We're never going to be the same again. We're not going to forget what happened here. The fear that we have, the anxiety that we have, that's not just going to go away. When do we get back to normal? I don't think we get back to normal. I think we get to a new normal.
Ow, Cuomo. We've got to get back to normal. Is it going to be tomorrow? No. Is it going to be within the next few years? Yes, of course it is. Right? Doesn't mean we don't think about things, but if you think that this is it, right? Like we're going to always live like this and live in fear, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. It is. Right now, this is a new situation, and this is the normal way that we're doing things. The new normal? Saying we're never going to be the same? That's, sorry. We may think, hey, we got to be more prepared next time. You know? We definitely have to be more prepared. We have to have a more cohesive message when something like this comes up. But to say that we're not going to ever get back to anything and that everybody's going to stay in their house forever and we're going to live in fear, that's insane. In fact, in 2008, so the Great Recession in 2008, resulted in about 10,000 more suicides. This right now, they're thinking could have a wave of suicides you could not believe. People that will not be counted as coronavirus casualties. But because of the coronavirus, they were left with insurmountable debt, a distancing to the point where they felt alone, a wave of depression, alcoholism. Alcohol's on the rise. Instead, like one of the things that when you go and look at what industries are at least somewhat faring well, alcohol is selling tremendously well. Anxiety, depression. Trump is right. I mean, if we went on like this, think about this. If we went on like this for 3 months, and by that I mean 3 solid months where we battled this thing state by state, and it worked its way out, and we come out the other side with unemployment anywhere between 30 and 50%, bankruptcies through the roof, a wave of suicide would not be shocking, I think, to anybody. I talked to several economists in the last few days. I said, how long do you think it is before we get back on our feet? And that's a poll question I put up. I said, how long do you think it's going to take before the economy gets back on its feet after this? 34% say 6 months. 26% say a year. 2 to 3 years for 24%. So 2 to 3 years. Undecided is about 14%. All of them said 2 years plus. And if we had to do this again, meaning it becomes a seasonal thing, we still don't have a treatment that works, and the vaccine is still a year out, and there's another flare-up, and it lasts through the end of the year, some say this could be a decade fight, meaning it could take 5 to 10 years to rebuild our economy. I'm not doom and gloom. I think it's going to take a year to 2 years, but to think that overnight there's going to be a magic switch, oh, no. No, it's not. But there is good news, and we're going to get there sooner than we think. We've got new research. We've got new hope. They're looking at a lot of different things. It's happening fast. The best minds in the world is on it. And we need to remember that 99% of the people that get this are going to survive. But we do need to have somewhat of a cohesive message as we move forward.
While biomedical research and vaccine trials are underway, other possible treatments are already being tested across the U.S. Some experts believe a vaccine could take longer. This week, the first patients began receiving convalescent plasma transfusions, blood plasma from recovered coronavirus patients, which contains antibodies that doctors hope might help those who are still sick.
Yeah, and they're looking at a lot of different things. They're also looking at the fact that there is a large portion of society that for whatever reason has antibodies, and they're going to test those things out. Dr. Jennifer Ashton.
We're talking about a test that could give us 3 pieces of information, whether you have a current infection, whether you're immune, or whether you've never had it. They are doing this test already in South Korea, China, and starting in Germany this month. This will be key to help us determine the silent transmission of this illness and to help people get back to work.
Yeah. That's it. So there's a lot of different things that are going on, and the speed at which this is going on is awesome. We're going to be fine. We're going to get through it. That I do know. But it is going to be frustrating at times, and I think we need to have a cohesive message, but we will get through this. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Knowing the science, does it make sense to you that some states are still not issuing stay-at-home orders? Doesn't everybody have to be on the same page with this stuff?
I think so, Anderson. I don't understand why that's not happening. As you said, the tension between federally mandated versus states' rights to do what they want is something I don't want to get into. But if you look at what's going on in this country, I just don't understand why we're not doing that.
Because we have states' rights. That's why. And it's tough, right? I mean, it is tough. Because you look and you say to yourself, want the states to do the right thing. They should be locking themselves down. At the same time, federally, you're thinking they've got their rights to handle themselves in the way that they want to handle themselves. They can do what they want. Sounds like, oh my God, are you serious? I can't. They feel like they can. Now, can Trump step in there and, say, hey, nope, we're doing this. This is what it is. This is the way it's going to go. Period. Case closed. End of story. This is it from now on. We're doing this. Period. Yes. But let's go back less than a week. If we go back less than a week, over the weekend, there was a thought that Trump was going to limit travel and essentially close down parts of Connecticut, Massachusetts, all of New Jersey, and New York. Cuomo comes out and says that is war on the state. We'll take that as a declaration of war. So you can't win. The states want to be able to do their own thing, and they want to be able to go, give us what we need, but also stay a bit away. We'll handle it from here. And that's a tough thing. Should we all be indoors? And by indoors, I mean still go out for a walk, right? Because we can't stay inside all day. You're going to go crazy. Go outside, take a walk, go back in, do whatever you need to do to relax. If you have work, do work. Would that be a better thing for the entire nation if we had one uniform, this is what we're going to do? Probably. But we also want to know what's the end date, right? We don't want to go through 30 days only to be told we're going to have to wait another 30 days and then we'll revisit it. Nobody wants that. And eventually, people will turn. They will. You know that, and I know that. So, do I think that we will eventually get to a point where that's a possibility? Yeah. But I think there will be an end date with that possibility. Meaning, if Trump says we're doing this, he's going to say, and this is how far we're going to go. And after that, then there's going to be another plan. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. This is interesting. Rasmussen poll. 2/3 of U.S. likely voters want their state's border closed and fines imposed for violating their community social distancing guidelines during the coronavirus. So, this is the question that was asked. Should your state bar all out-of-state travelers except for emergencies until the coronavirus threat has ended? 67% say yes, 21% say no, 12% say not sure. Do you favor or oppose such fines being handed out in the communities where you live, as far as if you go outside and you break a rule for not socially distancing the way that people would like to social distance? 68% say yes, 20% oppose. It's crazy. Should we do that? Because the travel is... I mean, let's break it down. New York, New Jersey is a hotbed. Florida said if you come from New York or New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, you have to quarantine yourself if you come down, because a lot of people in that corridor there in the eastern seaboard have homes and family and stuff down in Florida. They've headed down there because they wanted to get away what they thought was this overreaching arch of government. And what did they bring with them? Probably the coronavirus. How long does that go on for? And could you even do that? That's something that you have to ask. Could we do something like that? But more and more people are feeling like this is what we need to do. This is it. Then you've got a place like Laredo.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bali, a second.
It has to be one of the most unusual Laredo City Council meetings ever. The members all wearing bandanas or surgical masks, some attending by video conference. And while the vote was not unanimous,
All right, the yeas have it, motion passes.
The panel has decided that everyone over 5 years old in the border city of 260,000 must wear a nose and mouth covering of some kind in public. A violation could mean a $1,000 fine.
That's crazy. And we've talked about it since the beginning of this, the civil liberty side of stuff, because we're seeing that. We're seeing that more and more. What's up with the civil liberties? Do we have an issue here? Are we overstepping those, monitoring people that are sick? You've got Alabama, and I think Massachusetts giving out addresses to the police over, these people supposedly have the coronavirus. Who was it? Like 3 weeks ago, a guy in Kentucky. Remember, he went outside. He had the coronavirus. He had to go shopping for him and his sick wife. And they posted a guards at his door. I mean, there's issues here.
If you're going to curtail any civil liberties, you have to have at least two criteria. Number one, there always has to be a sunset provision. You can curtail it for 1 month, and it's not automatically renewal. You have to renew it again. Number two, it has to be justified by public health people, not by political people. And it has to remain nonpartisan in every way.
Are we doing that? And we know the civil liberties thing with the sunset clause, rarely does that thing ever, just like taxes, get put into a situation where they decide, oh, we're going to get rid of it, right? We're just not going to renew it. Rarely.
So take, for example, the surveillance. It's being considered now in England. It's being considered in Israel. It's being considered in other democratic countries. If it's going to be done, it has to be done on a very short-term basis. There has to be a rule that says you cannot use the data for any purpose other than tracking people who are sick. And it has to be limited in every possible way. In the end, there always has to be compromises with civil liberties during times of crisis. Sometimes they turn out very badly. President Roosevelt put 110,000 Japanese Americans in detention centers. It was a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, desperate times. Will we do that? Will we round up people to get the coronavirus? You test positive, you have to go to another place. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. Do we put, people who test positive for it, do we put a tracker on them? You're hearing things like, it's nuts. And like you said, it has to be used for this specific thing. Well, as we all know, in politics, especially in the world that we live in today, go see what Edward Snowden was talking about. All of those things get overused and overabused. So what do? That's the question. Do we lock it down for 30 days? And say, we're doing this for 30 days, and then that's that. And when we mean stay in your homes, you can go for a walk. You can't be in groups of more than two. So 2 people can go for a walk from the same household. If you have a backyard, you can go out back. We have a curfew, and essential employees are essential employees. And the only people that can go from state to state are real emergencies, verifiable. Or you're taking goods from one state to another state as a trucker, something like that. Media, probably pretty essential. And that's it. Food, you get to go get, maybe they're going to start doing like they did in Italy and Spain. You got to have a letter of when you can come out, when you can't come out. This day you can go to the store. Just like I remember as a kid growing up, Jimmy Carter and the whole, oil shortage and the gas prices and gas is what days, odd and even when as far as the back of your license plate. What is it? Is it odd or is it even? What day can we go? I mean, is that what we're going to get to? I have no idea. But I also worry about the civil liberties, forcing people to do certain things, telling people they can't assemble and there is that. And God forbid, because the way they treat it is, I said yesterday, God, the way they treat this, as horrible as it is, and nobody wants to spread it. And at this point in time, let's just say you caught it. How would you even know who you got it from? Or if you've got it from a person, meaning you may have never come in contact with somebody that ever had it or tested positive for it, but you could have touched a handle, rubbed your eye. Are we going to start going after people who they thought may have spread it? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And my fear is when the government starts to clamp down. That was 2 days ago when Trump had his press conference. They started rolling out military guys, and I started thinking to myself, oh, God only knows what this is going to be about. So we have to be careful with that. But would you favor closing down your state? Is that something you'd favor? Or are you okay with that? And if you do that, do you want a end date? Do you need to know, okay, yes, we'll do this, but only for this amount of time? And it can't be any more than that. And they can't go back and say, nope, we've reevaluated. Because that would be the thing. We're going to do it for 30 days. And then on the 28th day, they said, we've reevaluated. We're going to do it for another 30 days. And we've talked about the suicide level. We talked about a lot of things. You know, there's new research out talking about the lockdown. Great article in Reuters saying that this could have its own health consequences that would be huge. We talked about the suicide. 2008, 10,000 more suicides that year in the Great Recession. This could dwarf that. Numbers that would not be counted. All things you have to take into account. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. Job numbers today, awful. But we would take that next month, because next month, those numbers, and then the month after that, and those numbers could be ungodly. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
50,000 of those jobs were in the temporary help space, as obviously businesses are cutting back on expenses. Construction lost 29,000 jobs. Manufacturing lost 18,000 jobs.
Yeah, JJ Kanana right there talking about the ugliness of the job market and what it looks like out there at this moment in time. And it is ugly. It is absolutely ugly.
This is one of those numbers that's so monstrous, nobody really knows what to do with it. We knew things were bad, and so this confirms that things were bad.
Yeah, not just a little bad, a lot of bad, but it's not all bad.
The market didn't get completely beaten up with this coming out. The market has been very well prepared for really bad news, and we've seen that in the sell-offs over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, because people come up and like, why isn't the market getting crushed at this moment in time in certain areas? And I said, part of that is because a lot of what we saw when it was up near 29,000 and then it collapsed down to 19,000, that stuff now, all the bad news is already baked into it. So you'll see some days where it will drop 1,000, some days where it will rise 1,000, but you're going to see this kind of fluctuation, I'm assuming, between about 19 and about 22, 23,000, because it's now figuring out what the end game is here. Does it collapse to 15, or does it start its path back up? But at this moment in time, it's kind of in neutral, which is good, because if you've taken a beating in your 401k and a few other things, you'd like to just hope it's in neutral, at least at this moment in time. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Animals make me laugh. Animals make me smile. Hence the reason why I have a lot of animals. This weekend, if you've got Disney Plus, there's stuff going on that you can watch that's new, that I probably will, that has nothing to do with the Tiger King, which is still just an amazing story.
Elephants and dolphins are always enjoyable, and 2 high-profile nature docs hit Disney Plus today.
2 unforgettable journeys.
Elephant, narrated by Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle, follows a herd of African elephants as they make their epic trek across the Kalahari Desert. And Dolphin Reef, narrated by Oscar winner Natalie Portman, follows a young Pacific bottlenose dolphin as he learns about his own role in the reef ecosystem. Perhaps both will allow you to take a virtual vacation, since you can't really take a vacation.
Yeah, speaking of dolphins, new study out say that dolphins form like gangs, cliques. And that if you're a lone dolphin, the chances of you mating are slim to none. But if you have wingmen, especially for the males, that's how they mate. So, and they have their own, like, talk, we already know that, but they have their own dance and certain things they do. It's really interesting. You're like, so wait a minute. They form their own, like, gangs. Yeah. So if they look at it and they'll be together forever, right? So this is your ride or die group. And they're together forever. And so they have to be in. And so this group of 3, 4, 5. So there may be pods of hundreds, but there is inside of there, so there's little cliques. And those little cliques, those dolphins will help the other dolphins with their mate, to help them get a mate. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? And we're sheltering in place, for God's sakes. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. It's not all doom and gloom. We're going to come out of this. My feeling has always been April's going to be the worst month. May will be worse than March, but not as bad as April. And by June, we'll be getting back to a normal way of life. And by July, we'll be out and about doing and living our lives again. But it is going to be a tough few months. And April it's going to be ugly. So brace yourself, right? Brace yourself. But at the same time, look for happiness, look for a smile. For God's sakes, get outdoors. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The 701,000 jobs lost last month is only the beginning. Much of the monthly report released by the Labor Department is based on data collected before most stay-at-home orders took maximum effect. 10 million Americans have filed new claims for unemployment benefits. In layoffs, coronavirus has been indiscriminate, cutting jobs across the entire private sector, and the unemployment rate jumped nearly a full percentage point to 4.4%.
And that's before it really took place. 6.6 million filed for unemployment last week. How many people couldn't even get on? How many people couldn't get on and get everything they needed? I don't know. I don't know how many. And what happens a month from now? Because that number is going to continue to rise. If you thought that was bad, these next 2-3 months may be just eye-popping. It's ugly. But we're in the midst of it, and that means we're going to get out of it. I don't know when, but we will. We will get out of it. At some point in time, we're going to get out of this thing. It's ugly. It's going to be uglier. And it's not going to be an overnight fix. But we're going to get out of it. I promise you that. We will get out of this. It's tough. You hear everything is doom and gloom, and I'm not a doom and gloom kind of cat. I'm not. I look around, I say, okay, good. All right. You know, it's going now. We've started. You didn't want to fly. You're a scared flyer. You're nervous. You're holding on. We're in the flight now. The flight is taking off. Right? We're going to hit some bumps. We might have to wear a seatbelt for a lot longer than we thought. But we're eventually going to land. We will. I promise you. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Should there be a stay-at-home order nationally? Should that come from the feds? Some people think absolutely there should be.
that the 30-day guidelines to stay home from the federal government amount to a national stay-at-home order. Is that how you see it, too?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at what's in those 30-day recommendations of the guidelines, that's essentially what it is. I mean, I know it's difficult, but we're having a lot of suffering, a lot of death. This is inconvenient from an economic and a personal standpoint, but we just have to do it. That is our major weapon against this virus right now. And we can get through it if everybody really leans forward and pushes on this.
The weapon against the virus, as Fauci said, is time. Because what we're trying to, it's not going anywhere. So we could go hide for a month and come back out and we could start to see spikes again. It's all about mitigating. Can we take that curve, right? That big bump they have. Can we squash it down and can we make it last longer? That's what do you mean last longer? Well, we're not going to have a vaccine. So instead of everybody getting sick over a 60 or 90 day period, can we make it so we can mitigate that by dragging it out a little bit longer? And instead of a crush on our healthcare service, maybe the same amount of people get sick, but over a 6-month period instead of 30 days, 60 days. So we can manage it and give us time to find not a cure. The vaccine will come way, way, way down the line. We may not see that till late 2021 or into 2022. But could we see treatments? They're trying new treatments every day. They're looking at new things. They're trying different things. So should we stay home? And I was more a herd immunity guy. That was me. But we live in a different place. You know, Sweden is trying that. Sweden is trying hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to restrict people to 50. And by 50 people, that's all you get. So 50 people. But that's it. Right? We're not going to shut everything down. Kids, you're still going to go to school. You still got to do your job, all of those things. And why it works for them, at least it's been that way. Again, Europe is in lockdown. Sweden lives in a much different way. And a lot of what we're looking at here is also, you have to look at the demographics. You have to look at the lifestyles and the way that people live. So not everything's the same. Just like Italy is not America. But Italy is kind of like New York. Northern Italy is kind of like New York. They build up, not out. You have a lot of generations that live together. They're in a tight area. Arizona is not Northern Italy. Utah is not Northern Italy. They build out, not up. Sweden, it's a different place. 46% of adults live alone. They've, as their prime minister said, we kind of already practice social distancing. That's kind of the way of life we lead. There are outbreaks that have hit them hard, which isn't very many, hit in places like the Somali community of immigrants who've immigrated there because they live in generational homes. You have grandmother, great-grandmother, mom, dad, and children. So it's hard to say we should do it nationally like this because not everybody's New York. And yes, it can spread anywhere. Maybe the best bet isn't the lock it down. Maybe the best bet is not letting states travel. Ban interstate travel. So you can't go from California to Arizona unless you're a truck driver bringing food and goods in. No flying here. None of those things. Maybe that is something we could look at. But I've kind of been the herd immunity. And I think each state needs to look at it itself. But if we're going to do something, the problem is nobody wants to say we're going to do this. Nobody wants to say we're going to do that. We've left it to the governors, and the governors, some of them are looking towards the federal government saying, well, why don't you kind of help us out here and tell us what to do? And shouldn't you have guidelines for this? And, Trump's like, you know what? I'm going to allow the states to kind of run their own thing. And you got de Blasio saying the feds need to step in. And when Trump was thinking about closing down the state, as well as not only New York State, but Massachusetts and Connecticut, New Jersey, Cuomo comes out and says, you know what? That's war on the states. And you're just like, you can't win for losing. But one thing I do know, whatever we do, we have to have an end date. Whatever we do. So if we're going to lock it down nationally and we're going to stop traveling in between states and we're going to say, this is what we're doing, this is what it looks like, but it's going to be for this amount of time and no more than that. Because you need to give people some sort of silver lining. You need to give people some sort of end date. While we're on an airplane and we're flying, we always want to know there's a destination at the other end and that we're not going to get on there and go, we're going to be flying around until whenever. People don't want that. So somebody's going to have to step up and do it. I don't know who it's going to be, because not just for businesses, but for the average person, you're finding out anxiety is through the roof. Depression is through the roof. We'll cite this number again. 10,000 people in 2008 committed suicide because of the Great Recession. 10,000 more than normal. The lockdown itself could have a huge effect, and they're already seeing that with the rise in alcohol, anxiety, all kinds of things. So we're going to have to figure something out, because it can't just be we're going to live like this for the foreseeable future. Just can't be that. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from all of you. Raycon. I love my earbuds. All the kids at the house, they're screaming, they're yelling. They're doing their thing. I just wanted to chill and watch the end of Tiger King last night. Just put your earbuds in. Don't care what they're doing back there. Why? Because I'm relaxed. I don't hear them. I don't care if you're Skyping. I don't care if you're working at home, because so many people are right now. You need a good earbud. I don't care if your life is as normal as it's always been and you're working out and you just want to rock out, or maybe you want to listen to a podcast and you want to do it in peace and quiet, or you have a meeting that you have to take and you want to be able to focus and hear. The E25s from Raycons will give you all that. Comfort, style, 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing. It's awesome. It really is. Treat yourself. They're half the price of any of these other earbuds out there. The quality and sound is so supreme. And the comfort level, I cannot stress enough how comfortable they are. I've tried every kind of headset, earbuds, you name it. These things that you don't even feel like they're in there, and they just don't fall out. They don't. You're not going to be messing with them or fidgeting with them. On top of the price being well under $100, I'm going to save you 15% right now as well. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. 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 At Chad Benson Show, Twitter. ChadBenson. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, a guy named Andy Boyle is going to come on. Used to be a fat guy. He's now thin. And he did it in a very interesting way. And in these times, oh, my Lord, I think a lot of people are going to overeat with anxiety and stress. And there's little things you can do to keep yourself in shape. We're going to talk to him at the bottom of the hour. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Plea deal this.
Mueller, arrest me.
Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old intranet. What's trending? Let's take a peek at what's trending on the old interwebs. Lots of stuff's trending. Flashback Friday, of course, on the old Twitter. Flashback Friday, flashing it back. 4.4% in March. That's our job unemployment jumped. We lost 701,000 jobs last month, and that was before it really started to take off. God only knows what that's going to look like. Bill Withers. Ain't no sunshine when you're gone. Lean on me. Passed away today, 84. Not from the coronavirus. Just letting you know that. Captain Crozier is trending. Now, if you don't know who he is the naval commander who was on the USS Roosevelt, who sent out a letter talking about the coronavirus threat on board, blew the whistle on it. He was relieved of his duties, and he is trending. If you saw his send-off as he went to shore, to see all of the soldiers and to see everybody, it was moving. They said they fired him not because of the letter, but because he did not follow the protocols that he needed, and that too many people were recipients of something that they had no right to be recipients of. That's their story. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the story, and they're sticking to it. Going over to Google, number one trending thing, SBA loan. So today the loan program opens up where you can borrow dollar bills for your company, $350 billion in loans. What they're saying is that when they looked at everything, and God only knows how long this is going to take. We're not even talking about a recovery. We're just talking about getting out of this before we can start talking about a recovery. They said the average small business, half of those, have about 27 days worth of financial cushion. That was according to the last report, and that was done in 2016. So what you can do now is you can get a loan for 2.5 times your monthly payroll with a maximum of $10 million. Again, these are small businesses, right? So if you're a mom and pop shop, you're probably not getting $10 million. And as long as you pay your employees and keep your lights on and everything, you don't have to pay that back, right? But there's no guarantee that you're going to open up in a month, 2 months, 3 months, and people are asking the question, well, what happens from there? So you have to have a business with 500 employees or less. Sole proprietors, freelancers, as well as nonprofits can apply. It doesn't require a ton of information that a typical small business loan, but they say some banks aren't going to be ready immediately, money-wise. And they said yesterday, you can get your money as early as the same day. Well, the program opens up. They're saying it's probably going to take 5 to 10 days on average. Now, the loans are forgivable if you keep employees. It can be fully forgiven, but only if the business meets certain criteria. First, to be forgiven, the money must be spent on payroll, rent, mortgage, interest, and utilities during the 8 weeks after the loan is made. Any portion spent on anything else won't be forgiven. In addition, the SBA has said that at least 3/4 of the forgiven portion must be used for payroll, which includes benefits in addition to wages. If the business owner's already laid off workers, they can rehire employees and still get forgiveness as long as they rehire those workers by June 30th. Some of the things that are available to this. And that is being trending everywhere, and it's everywhere you search because a lot of businesses are looking at this today. But they're also saying, I borrow this for 2 months. Am I going to be open in 3 months? Good question. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Andy Boyle joins us straight ahead. We'll talk about weight loss. Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
He's a journalist. He is an author. He's got a book out called Big Problems. Former fat guys look at why we're getting fatter and what you can do to fix it in this day and age of craziness, chaos, and quarantine and social distancing. I noticed that a lot of people are staying in their homes, and I see all kinds of memes, Andy, of what they're going to look like come summertime when they come back out. And I think there's going to be some weight issues come the summer. How does a former fat guy get thin?
So I think one of the first things that folks need to understand is, if you gain a little weight during all of this, it's not the end of the world. Right now, we got so much going on, so much stress. We're having to deal with our families. We're having to convince perhaps our parents to stay indoors. And I think because of that, cut yourself some slack. But when it's time for us to be able to kind of come out of our shells and see what our new bodies have become, one of the first things that folks just need to figure out is, what's your goal? Like losing weight, that's a goal, but your goal could also be, maybe you realized if you're having to run around with your kids all day, you can't keep up. So maybe one of your goals might be, I want to be able to play with my kids for 30 minutes in the backyard without getting winded. And then you just kind of make a plan. And your plan might be something as simple as, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk after every meal. It might be something as simple as, when I go out to eat, I'm going to cut my portion in half and take the other half home and eat that for another meal. It's these little steps, and they all kind of add up that push you in the right direction.
So how much weight did you lose?
The most I lost was 100 pounds.
That's a lot. Now,
that is a lot.
Like 100 pounds. So when did you say to yourself, all right, Andy, I got to get myself going. This is, I can't see my feet anymore. What was that aha moment?
The aha moment was that I was in a meeting at a newspaper I worked at in Chicago, and my pants split in front of everybody. And it was incredibly embarrassing, and I ran across the street to a Walgreens, bought some duct taped my pants on the inside, and I just remember looking in the bathroom mirror in this office building and just being like, Andy, what is going on, man? Like, you have gotten so big. And I honestly hadn't stepped on a scale. I think I think it's a pretty normal thing for people who are big. I knew I was a big guy. No fat person is unaware that they are fat. But I just kind of realized, you know what, dude, you're smart. I want you to be, like, I literally was telling myself this. I want you to be healthier. Let's start to make some better decisions. And just kind of over time, I started to figure some stuff out. I figured out what worked for me. And then that's what kind of led to the book, because it was kind of like, one, how did I get so fat in the first place? And then how come I was able to lose the weight when a lot of people can't? And what can I help? How can I use that information to help other people?
Talking to Andy Boyle, author, Big Problems, former fat guys look at why we're getting fatter and what you can do to fix it. And I think a lot of people are home right now, and they're probably looking in the mirror, and you see all kinds. I think some people may go one way, and other people may go another way as far as weight, because we eat, the stress, the whole 9 yards. But most people that get big, and I played soccer, and I did it for a while professionally, and then once I was done, it snuck up on me. And was it one of those things where you look up and all of a sudden, 10 years later, you've put on 8 pounds a year, you didn't really realize it, and all of a sudden you're like 60, 80 pounds overweight, and you're like, whoa? Or was it a specific time where the weight went on?
I think it was kind of gradual over time. And I think what happened to me was, I was like a bigger guy in high school. I'm 6'2", and I know I weighed more than 200, 230, maybe 240 when I was in high school. So I was a big dude, but compared to other people, I was even bigger, because all the kids I grew up with were just bean poles. They were all so skinny. And then when I went to college, you gain a little bit of weight, and then you discover beer. And then over time, I was less active. I wasn't moving as much. I wasn't playing sports or doing anything. And then you get into the real world, and it's like commuting to your job. You're not walking around campus or anything to get some exercise, sitting on your butt in an office. And just over time, all of a sudden, I was just this big dude. And I knew I was big, but I think the important thing was I was never weighing myself. So it wasn't like there was anything to like really shock me into seeing how different was I, year to year. And I think when I looked at myself and really kind of was like, wow, Andy, you've let yourself go. And then I stood on a scale and I was just like, oh my God, okay, well, that's where we're starting at.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, were you a scale guy? Like once you started to do this, were you like, I'm going to get on every day, or I'm going to get on it once a week or every other week? Because I think that's also something that some people get obsessed with the scale, and some people are like, you know what? I'm going to be obsessed with, can I get into these clothes rather than the scale?
Yeah, and I think weight is a factor in all of this. For me, I weigh, so right now I'm about 240 pounds, about 80 pounds less than I used to weigh. I think I look better at 240 pounds than when I had lost 100 pounds because I managed to build up a bunch more muscle. I look better in T-shirts, and that is one way to be able to tell, hey, I'm doing better. I think a scale is a great way to kind of hold yourself accountable. I was a person, and I still am, I weigh myself every day. And whenever I've had upticks where I've started to gain some of the weight back, it's because I stopped standing on the scale every morning. And I think you kind of tell yourself, well, I must be doing great. But if you have no way of actually checking how great you're doing, how do you know? It's kind of like saying I'm a world-class sprinter, but I'm never doing any timed runs. You're just telling yourself something, but you don't have any proof.
Yeah, yeah. So now, talking to Andy Boyle, Big Problems, former fat guys look at why we're getting fatter and what you can do to fix it. And the book is interesting because I'm one of these guys where I lost about, after I stopped playing and stuff, Andy, I was like, you know what, I put on like 40 or 50 pounds and I realized, I need to lose some weight. And about 3 years ago, I just started eating less and working out more. And I know it's a shocker to most people that calories in and calories, not all calories are the same, but the reality is when you do have some portion control and you don't make everything black and white and you work out a little bit more, people are shocked to find out that weight actually comes off of you.
100%. And you do not, and I think this is where I failed when I was younger. I thought if I need to make changes, I have to become kind of a crazy man. I have to become health fitness guru. I have to eat the most perfect meals. And that's not necessarily the case. You can just make smaller, better choices over time. Again, exercise is great, but eating better is by far the best way to kind of either lose some weight or get your weight on a better track. All of these things add up. And you'd be just kind of like, I have one friend, they got a dog. And she lost 20 pounds because she has to walk the dog. And it was just kind of like she just realized one day her clothes didn't fit, like they fit differently. And she kind of weighed herself and she was like, oh, what did I change? Just one thing. This dog made her walk everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, that's little, like I gave up soda like 4 years ago and didn't do anything else. I lost 15 pounds and I was like, that's the weirdest thing in the world. It's just a little thing like that. It's crazy. So you talk about social media, and I was joking earlier, like if you go to TikTok, this is what I think I know about TikTok. You either have a six-pack or you're a beautiful girl with big butt, big boobs, and a six-pack as well. Otherwise, other people don't exist, and you think to yourself, does everybody look like that? Because I feel like at 49, I'm never going to be that. Why would I want to do that? And that's a very skewed thing to have.
Very much. It's the same thing. The media we see in grocery stores and the magazines, in movies and television, we're seeing a skewed view of what people look like. It's like 60% of people in America are overweight or obese. So that's like the normal. And so not everybody has rock hard abs. And also the thing that a lot of people don't understand, folks who have those kind of rock hard abs, they usually had to work for a certain amount of period, dehydrate themselves, eat incredibly low amounts of carbohydrates, basically do what bodybuilders do, so they have this particular look. And then they share it on TikTok, they put it on Instagram, and you think that guy or that gal looks like that always. When in actuality, a lot of them are they look that good for an hour, and then it goes away because they drank water. And so I think that really skews how people look. And even me, when I go to the gym and I'll see some guys, when I was going to the gym, and I'll see some guys and I'll just be like, man, that dude's arms are amazing, or something like that. And then I just go, well, you know what? That guy's had a different life than me. We've had different paths. He might train differently. That doesn't make me any worse. That just means that's how that guy looks, and good for him.
And look, that's the way I feel. Like, if I'm 49, I'm in good shape. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I work out 4 days a week. I was never going to be a stick anyways. And it's like one of those things where, look, this is what looks good on me. And it's hard because a lot of people now base themselves on everybody else's look. That's just the world we live in. Everything is a comparison. Yep. What I love about your book is it's down to earth. Like, hey, guess what, guys? Don't starve yourself. Eat real food, calories in, calories out, and there's no black and white. And I've always said, one of my producers, they asked me, Chad, when you got fit again, started to get fit again, what were you doing? I said, what's the best thing to work for you? I said, I ate regular food. I didn't make it black and white. And if I wanted to have a hamburger or a cheat day, I did, and I didn't worry about it, because when you go black and white, I think you're just setting yourself up for failure.
100%. And I think one of the other big things is when you do have those, I call them treat meals instead of cheat, because you're treating yourself. And I think what that can help with is the psychological aspect. Because there was a time when I was, when I was way skinnier than I am now, and I would eat a Snickers bar, I'd feel bad about it. And you don't want that. I want to be like, now, if I go have a Snickers bar, that's fine, because I'm already watching what I eat. I'm running 3 days a week. I'm lifting weights 3 days. Like, I am physically active, and I can have a Snickers bar every once in a while. Or if I want to have a hamburger, from a fast food place, it's not the end of the world, because I have so many other things I'm doing that are pushing me in the right direction.
So, last question. Advice to people out there, especially right now who are listening, who are going to be stuck in the home for the next 2 weeks, 60 days, 90 days, who've spent the last 2 weeks eating some of their feelings and don't want to be in that situation, or are stressed out, or got tons of anxiety. And you talk about mental health in this as well as anxiety. What advice can you give the regular average person that can make them to go, okay, cool, I can get on this kind of plan, which isn't really a diet, it's just a change of life?
Yeah, I think the big thing is plan your meals. And that can just be as simple as writing down on a sheet of paper, I'm going to have breakfast, I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to have dinner. And then if you want to say what you're going to try to eat during those meals, that's also fine. But what's really crazy is when you write down a goal, like a list like that, even if you don't look at the sheet of paper again, your brain gets set on that. And that can really help you from going to the pantry and just kind of scarfing whenever you walk past it. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is just, you don't have to decide you're going to do CrossFit in your basement during this. You can just go for some walks. You can, if you run, go for some runs. You do not need to go full bore. But I also think the big thing is people can cut themselves some slack during all of this, because it's a difficult time. People are doing their best, and whatever you can do, that's the best that you can do.
Absolutely. Big problems. Former Fat Guys look at why we're getting fatter and what you can do to fix it. Andy Boyle, appreciate you coming on, brother. If people want to get the book, where do they go?
They can find it at all major retailers, but if you can, try to check out a local independent bookstore. Help them out.
Right on, man. Thanks so much, dude. And be safe, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. At Chad Benson Show, Twitter, ChadBenson. And I will tell you guys, I read the book, and it's just common sense. Calories in, calories out, lift little weights, get some exercise, eat less. Think about this. If you lost about 3/4 of a pound a week in 1 year, you're going to be down about 40 pounds. And the chances of you keeping that off is tremendous. You lose 40 pounds in a month, chances of you keeping that off, not very good. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
15 and a half years old, Josie Dog trying to complete another morning walk. Can she do it? The money is coming in on Josie to complete this walk. She could get stuck at the bakery. That's even money. Going to the bakery early morning before they're even open. Josie looking for a snack. This is the intelligence. She knows the bakery isn't open and she is turned around on her own, looking around for her owner. She spots the man and here she comes.
Yes. People are bored. Michael Jenkins right there. Just out. Got nothing going on. It's going to announce dog's going for a walk. What kind of walk? Just a walk. What do you do on walks?
Josephine making the final turn now. She's a little tired, but look at the motivation. Look at the legs. It is the final stretch, and what a performance from Josie Dog. Just a few more feet to go before she wraps things up. One more chance to get in a few smells before she crosses the line. Unbelievable. The neighborhood on its feet, and Josie is gonna poop. Can she do it? She's tired. She's still got it, and the walk is complete.
People are going crazy. What's going on with us? We're in our house all day. Some states, you're in your house like all day with the walk. You don't have work, or you're working sparingly. You're sitting around and you're just going out of your mind, talking to your friends through text and maybe Skype or FaceTime. It's nuts out there. Celebrities are going crazy in their ginormous homes.
Hey, let's face it, there's a lot of anger out there at this moment towards celebrities. Why? Celebrities are posting videos from their homes, and a lot of them have very beautiful, spacious mansions, and they look out of touch, telling us, hey, chill, it's all going to be okay, and then you see how they live, and it's just insane. I just want to tell all my celebrity friends, be careful about that. Try and just be sensible about what you show in your home. I don't worry about that. I have a simple home, a nice home, and I'm proud of it, but nothing too opulent.
Yeah, some people are posting stuff, and you're like, oh, my God, really? You're like, you should work out and keep fit, and then they're in their house, and they've got a full gym, and there's their trainer. It's like, really? But what else are you going to do? What are you going to say? Hey, you know what we should do? We should go stay at some cheap motel and you know, but you can be tone deaf, right? Like Madonna was absolutely tone deaf.
That's the thing about COVID-19. It doesn't care about how rich you are, how famous you are, how funny you are, how smart you are, where you live. It's the great equalizer. And what's wonderful about it is that it's made us all equal in many ways.
And she's sitting there in this opulent bathtub with like milky white water and like candles burning everywhere and rose petals in there. And you remember that like a week ago? She's just like, tone deaf. People are tone deaf. And it is an equalizer. Tony Boselli, one of the greatest linemen in the history of football. Have only 47 years old. He is still a beast, a mountain of a man, fit, not fat. He had to have oxygen over this. Crazy. The stuff it can do to even healthy people. Now, he never thought he was going to die from it. He said, I don't want to die here. But he never thought he was going to die from it. But it affected him that much. And for a younger generation, an overactive immune system is the thing. It's not the disease. It's the fact that the disease triggers the immune system. The immune system becomes overactive, and then it fights itself. It's crazy. Got to be wary. Personal responsibility. Your state's not on a full lockdown. You got to take personal responsibility for what you're doing. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
There's an impact of isolating people. What we need to do, though, now is make some sort of a concerted decision. I think it should be made at the national level as to what we're going to do. Because if we have a haphazard patch quilt of some states do one thing and other states do another, it's very difficult to know where we're going to go. President Trump, at this point, he clearly has a mandate to make whatever decisions he thinks are most in the public interest.
Dr. Lipkin, right there. Does Trump have a mandate? I think some states would push back hard. We saw that. just last weekend in New York, where Cuomo said, no, that's if you try to shut us down and you try to impose any kind of travel restrictions, do certain things, we are going to take that as war. Are we underestimating how long it's going to take us to get out of this? I think a lot of people are. I do. We are not going to return to the normal way of life pre-coronavirus for a long time. A long time. It's going to take people. It's first of all, for us to get back to where we were. That, not just talking about the financial side of it, but let's include everything. That might take 2 or 3 years for us to get back to where we were. That's big. Even if we came out of this thing in 6 months and we all got back to work as best as we possibly can, the financial repercussions are still going to be massive. A lot of businesses are shut down and will not be reopening. Other businesses will pop up in certain areas. There'll be innovation and new opportunities, but it is still going to take a while. Then you're going to have the psyche of the American people, the psychological damage that is going to take a while for people to get back into the flow of things. But now the thing we need to focus is on how do we mitigate this so we can even start thinking about the other side.
My feeling is that if we actually did this on a national level, invested the time, did it thoughtfully, that we be out of this sooner rather than later. If we don't do that, we're going to have the same amount of pain, perhaps even more. I think we could get out of this in a matter of 2 months if we focused.
Dr. Lipkin there. Could we get out of it? And what does out of it look like? That's the other thing. People are waiting when, everybody thought Trump was going to shut it down over the weekend. Then it was just going to be New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts. You've got several states out there that have shelter in place orders, but a lot more essential businesses are left on the list or things that you're allowed to do. Parks are still open in certain areas. Golf courses are open. And then you have some states that are not in any kind of shelter in place. We expect that every state is going to be devastated, but then you see some experts are like, some states may not be really as effective as some people think. Part of that is the way that they live their life, meaning they don't live in one area where they're all crammed in together. New York, build up, not out. Phoenix, build out, not up. So there's a lot that goes into this. But in saying that, are we going to have a situation where we're going to be told nationwide that this is it? We're shutting it all down. No travel between the states. Everybody's got a shelter in place. Only the bare essentials that we absolutely must have, from our healthcare workers to food and things of that nature that are just an absolute must, are allowed to operate. Outside of that, everything else must be closed. That is a possibility. Right now, though, we just kind of doing our thing, right? A little bit over here, a little bit over there. So we'll see. We will see what takes place. But as it continues to grow and we see these numbers rise, people are going to start asking questions of the federal government. What should you be doing? And at the same time, you look over and you're saying to yourself, well, right now, Trump and everybody's doing what the Constitution says we should do, which is states' rights. You guys know your state better. You should be handling this. Are they going to step in sooner rather than later? That is going to be very interesting to see if that happens over the weekend. And what's it going to take to get to that point? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. You could text the program as well. Love hearing from each and every single one of you. If you guys haven't heard, absolute destruction in the job market today. Ugly. And this is, well, the beginning.
The 701,000 jobs lost last month is only the beginning. Much of the monthly report released by the Labor Department is based on data collected before most stay-at-home orders took maximum effect. 10 million Americans have filed new claims for unemployment benefits. In layoffs, coronavirus has been indiscriminate, cutting jobs across the entire private sector, and the unemployment rate jumped nearly a full percentage point to 4.4%.
Yeah. 700,000 plus jobs. What's it look like a month from now? I don't know. Small business loans, you're able to take those out today. 500 people or less in your business. Freelancers, independent contractors. There's a lot of different things. As long as you're using money for certain things, you don't have to pay it back. So let's say you get $1 million loan. You pay the salaries, you pay to keep the lights on, the mortgage, the rent, whatever it is that you're doing, you do that. You don't have to pay it back. If you use it for other things, whatever you use that for, so let's say you used 85% of that for that, and you used 15% for something else, you'd be on the hook for that 15%. The issue with taking out any kind of loan at this moment in time is, am I ever going to reopen again? Where I'm going to be able to have a business. People are freaking out, and they have every reason to freak out. I've talked to so many small businesses. I'm a small business owner. Very fortunate in what we do. But it is still one of those things where, you know, we were going over it last night. I'm like, should we or shouldn't we? You know, my uncle and I were talking about, like, should we? I mean, we're okay. And we're blessed because we have other incomes and things. But it's still one of those things where we're okay now. But should we, as a just-in-case precaution? But I do wonder what happens after this, because nobody really knows what's going to happen. And you're hearing more and more about how scared people are.
I mean, granted, the PPP is going to be helpful, but even 2 months worth, what happens in 2 months when say we can reopen, but still everybody is broke and terrified to have their face touched?
Yeah. There's a lady who is like, she's thinking about, as an esthetician and things like that, what do I do? You know, people are broke. And they're terrified. That's part of that psyche we talked about, that even when we get back to normal, whatever that is at this moment in time, there's still going to be people out there that are worried about going out or spending money. Even if they survive through this with no real financial hardship at all, are they going to say, well, I'm not going to spend money yet because I'm waiting for the next wave? Because we hear the second wave, right? If you know anything in your study of history, Spanish flu, first wave, bad. Not awful. Second wave, devastating. Third wave, bad. We're waiting for that. And when you get 2 months worth of this, with them talking about sheltering in place, could be 2 months, could be 3 months, when there's no end in sight, people are worried about, do we take it out? And if you don't pay your landlord, how long can they go? I mean, there's so many things that I feel like we're not quite sure about. And part of that is because we don't know when the end date is. So it's hard to plan for something, because no matter how much you plan, you can't plan for forever. You may be in a great position where you've got 4, 5, 6 months, very Dave Ramsey-esque kind of thing, where you got a bunch of money stacked aside that, just in case there was a downturn in the marketplace or whatever. But if this thing goes on for a year, you didn't have that. And that's the fear.
I contacted my landlord and I said, hey, this thing is coming. We've already seen a 50% reduction in our bookings. We are in trouble and the world is in trouble. What is your plan with all of your tenants? And it was met with, I don't know. We haven't talked about it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that, not only for businesses, but for homeowners. Okay, what do we do here? So we get how much we can miss, we can call, we contact the bank, which is always the best thing. Same thing with the landlord. But remember, a lot of times they have people to answer to, right? So it's the unknown, uncertainty. That scares people the most. If we knew this was going to be 6 months, we can go, all right, 6 months, this is what we have to do. And then, as horrible as that would be, as devastating as it would be, you would say at least there. But not knowing, that is, what do? How do you plan for something you have no idea? You could be open next month. You may never open again. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. My best guesstimate based on, I've talked to Dr. Jennifer Ashton. I've talked to several immunologists and CDC people as well as financial people. My best guess is by July, a good portion of America will be out of it. We'll probably have some sort of treatment, I'm assuming, in the next 45 days. Some states are going to get hit with it much harder, obviously. And as far as businesses go, it's probably going to be at least a year and a half to 2 years before we get back to where we were pre-coronavirus. And there's going to be a lot of bankruptcies. A lot of businesses that are never going to reopen again. And there'll be new businesses that reopen and fill those vacancies. And there's also going to be new innovation. But it is going to take a while. This is definitely an uphill race in sand at this moment in time. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. My Pillow. We saw Mike Lindell this week up there with the president, and he is they're clearing out the warehouse. They're not making pillows or any of that stuff right now. They're making masks for hospitals. And they want to get rid of everything, and they're doing something amazing. They realize sleep is awesome, great for your immune system. They've got buy one, get one free on everything. Everything. The My Pillows, the towels, the sheets, the roll and go anywhere pillows, duvet covers, neck and bolster pillows, you name it. It's buy one, get one free. Plus, they're going to give you a gift card. I'll tell you how they do that. You get a 6-day money-back guarantee. You get a 10-year warranty. Everything's machine washable and dryable and made in the USA. Boom, that's a win right there. Go to the MyPillow.com. There's a radio listener special page. Type in my code, which is Benson. When you check out, if you order Mike's book, interesting book about his life, talk about a guy that had nothing, was at the bottom and rose, you're going to get all of your MyPillow stuff shipped for free. On top of that, you get a $25 gift card on your next purchase. Don't miss out. Great opportunity. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
Don't forget, hydrate, wash your hands, pray, dance, as if no one is watching. Thank you.
Nancy Pelosi. So we're to do what again?
Don't forget, hydrate.
I'm hydrating.
Wash your hands.
I do that way too much now. Kara, are you washing your hands totally every 10 minutes? You find yourself doing that?
Not every 10 minutes since I can't leave the studio, but anytime I leave the studio, yes. And otherwise I have hand sanitizer that I'm using all the time.
Yeah.
And lotion. I need to start carrying lotion with me.
Yeah, because my hands, I don't know about you, but my hands are raw. I'm at the point now where it's uncomfortable at times to even bend them because they're so raw from overwashing. It's weird. So we're going to wash our hands.
Pray.
Do that.
Dance as if no one is watching. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So do all of those things. Hydrate, wash your hands, pray, and dance. We'll be all right. Something else Pelosi said.
Why the president doesn't do the Defense Production Act, why he doesn't call for everyone to have it said, you'd have to ask him about that. We're up to around 90% of the American people shelter in place or other stay-at-home initiatives. It should be 100%. Because this is a terrible, terrible assault on the lives and the livelihood of the American people. We're all in this together. Let's get it done, but not have some people say it's a California problem, it's a New York problem. No, we're all in this together.
And we all are in this together. She's right. But I think Trump's trying to give the states the opportunity to do what they think is best. Should we do a shelter in place? I think we pick one or the other, right? I think we either do the shelter in place, we do it for X amount of days with the end game being May 15th or June 1st, and then that is that. After that, if you guys haven't figured something out, we're going to give the people the option to return to life as they had before and warn everybody that you're taking everything in your own hands at that point in time as far as the risk of whether or not you catch it or spread it. But you got to give the people something, because it can't just be limbo. Limbo's not good, right? You ever gone and applied for a job and they haven't given it to anybody and it just hangs out there and dangles out there? Or you just want to know, right? Like you just want to know. People want to know. If you didn't get it, great. If you did get it, awesome. People are looking for an end date. And it's tough because, as Fauci says, Dr. Fauci, this thing's going to run its course. It's going to be the one that decides if and when. I understand that, but you can do things to mitigate it and help us get back out there. I'm fine with whichever way anybody decides to go. But I think at some point in time, she's right. We have to make a decision. Let's stay in the lane. Let's pick it. Let's do it and go from there. 323-538-2423. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Knowing the signs, does it make sense to you that some states are still not issuing stay-at-home orders? Doesn't everybody have to be on the same page with this stuff?
I think so, Anderson. I don't understand why that's not happening. As you said, the tension between federally mandated versus states' rights to do what they want is something I don't want to get into. But if you look at what's going on in this country, I just don't understand why we're not doing that.
Because we have states' rights. That's why. And it's tough, right? I mean, it is tough. Because you look and you say to yourself, want the states to do the right thing. They should be locking themselves down. At the same time, federally, you're thinking they've got their rights to handle themselves in the way that they want to handle themselves. They can do what they want. Sounds like, oh my God, are you serious? I can't. They feel like they can. Now, can Trump step in there and, say, hey, nope, we're doing this. This is what it is. This is the way it's going to go. Period. Case closed. End of story. This is it from now on. We're doing this. Period. Yes. But let's go back less than a week. If we go back less than a week, over the weekend, there was a thought that Trump was going to limit travel and essentially close down parts of Connecticut, Massachusetts, all of New Jersey, and New York. Cuomo comes out and says, that is war on the state. We'll take that as a declaration of war. So you can't win. The states want to be able to do their own thing, and they want to be able to go, give us what we need, but also stay a bit away. We'll handle it from here. And that's a tough thing. Should we all be indoors? And by indoors, I mean still go out for a walk, right? Because we can't stay inside all day. You're going to go crazy. Go outside, take a walk, go back in, do whatever you need to do to relax. If you have work, do work. Would that be a better thing for the entire nation? if we had one uniform, this is what we're going to do? Probably. But we also want to know what's the end date, right? We don't want to go through 30 days only to be told we're going to have to wait another 30 days and then we'll revisit it. Nobody wants that. And eventually, people will turn. They will. You know that, and I know that. So, do I think that we will eventually get to a point where that's a possibility? Yeah. But I think there will be an end date with that possibility. Meaning, if Trump says we're doing this, he's going to say, and this is how far we're going to go. And after that, then there's going to be another plan. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. This is interesting. Rasmussen poll. 2/3 of U.S. likely voters want their state's border closed and fines imposed for violating their community social distancing guidelines during the coronavirus. So, this is the question that was asked. Should your state bar all out-of-state travelers except for emergencies until the coronavirus threat has ended? 67% say yes, 21% say no, 12% say not sure. Do you favor or oppose such fines being handed out in the communities where you live, as far as if you go outside and you break a rule for not socially distancing the way that people would like to social distance? 68% say yes, 20% oppose. It's crazy. Should we do that? Because the travel is... I mean, let's break it down. New York, New Jersey is a hotbed. Florida said if you come from New York or New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, you have to quarantine yourself if you come down, because a lot of people in that corridor there in the eastern seaboard have homes and family and stuff down in Florida. They've headed down there because they wanted to get away what they thought was this overreaching arch of government. And what did they bring with them? Probably the coronavirus. How long does that go on for? And could you even do that? That's something that you have to ask. Could we do something like that? But more and more people are feeling like this is what we need to do. This is it. Then you've got a place like Laredo.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bali, a second.
It has to be one of the most unusual Laredo City Council meetings ever. The members all wearing bandanas or surgical masks, some attending by video conference. And while the vote was not unanimous,
All right, the yeas have it, motion passes.
the panel has decided that everyone over 5 years old in the border city of 260,000 must wear a nose and mouth covering of some kind in public. A violation could mean a $1,000 fine.
That's crazy. And we've talked about it since the beginning of this, the civil liberty side of stuff, because we're seeing that. We're seeing that more and more. What's up with the civil liberties? Do we have an issue here? Are we overstepping those? Monitoring people that are sick. You've got Alabama and I think Massachusetts giving out addresses to the police over, these people supposedly have the coronavirus. Who was it? Like 3 weeks ago, a guy in Kentucky. Remember, he went outside. He had the coronavirus. He had to go shopping for him and his sick wife. And they posted a guards at his door. I mean, there's issues here.
If you're going to curtail any civil liberties, you have to have at least two criteria. Number one, there always has to be a sunset provision. You can curtail it for 1 month, and it's not automatically renewal. You have to renew it again. Number two, it has to be justified by public health people, not by political people. And it has to remain nonpartisan in every way.
Are we doing that? And we know the civil liberties thing with the sunset clause, rarely does that thing ever, just like taxes, get put into a situation where they decide, we're going to get rid of it, right? We're just not going to renew it. Rarely.
So take, for example, the surveillance. It's being considered now in England. It's being considered in Israel. It's being considered in other democratic countries. If it's going to be done, it has to be done on a very short-term basis. There has to be a rule that says you cannot use the data for any purpose other than tracking people who are sick. And it has to be limited in every possible way. In the end, there always has to be compromises with civil liberties during times of crisis. Sometimes they turn out very badly. President Roosevelt put 110,000 Japanese Americans in detention centers. It was a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, desperate times. Will we do that? Will we round up people to get the coronavirus? You test positive, you have to go to another place. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. Do we put, people who test positive for it, do we put a tracker on them? You're hearing things like that. I mean, it's nuts. And like you said, it has to be used for this specific thing. Well, as we all know, in politics, especially in the world that we live in today, go see what Edward Snowden was talking about. All of those things get overused and overabused. So what do we do? That's the question. Do we lock it down for 30 days? And say, we're doing this for 30 days, and then that's that. And when we mean stay in your homes, you can go for a walk. You can't be in groups of more than two. So 2 people can go for a walk from the same household. If you have a backyard, you can go out back. We have a curfew, and essential employees are essential employees. And the only people that can go from state to state are real emergencies, like real emergencies, verifiable. Or you're taking goods from one state to another state as a trucker, something like that. Media, probably pretty essential. And that's it. Food, you get to go get, maybe they're going to start doing like they did in Italy and Spain. You got to have a letter of when you can come out, when you can't come out. This day you can go to the store. Just like I remember as a kid growing up, Jimmy Carter and the whole, oil shortage and the gas prices and gas is what days, odd and even when as far as the back of your license plate. What is it? Is it odd or is it even? What day can we go? I mean, is that what we're going to get to? I have no idea. But I also worry about the civil liberties, forcing people to do certain things, telling people they can't assemble and there is that. And God forbid, because the way they treat it is, I said yesterday, God, the way they treat this, as horrible as it is, and nobody wants to spread it. And at this point in time, let's just say you caught it. How would you even know who you got it from? Or if you've got it from a person, meaning you may have never come in contact with somebody that ever had it or tested positive for it, but you could have touched a handle, rubbed your eye. Are we going to start going after people who they thought may have spread it? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And my fear is when the government starts to clamp down. That was 2 days ago when Trump had his press conference. They started rolling out military guys, and I started thinking to myself, oh, God only knows what this is going to be about. So we have to be careful with that. But would you favor closing down your state? Is that something you'd favor? Or are you okay with that? And if you do that, do you want a end date? Do you need to know, okay, yes, we'll do this, but only for this amount of time? And it can't be any more than that. And they can't go back and say, nope, we've reevaluated. Because that would be the thing. We're going to do it for 30 days, and then on the 28th day, they said, we've reevaluated, we're going to do it for another 30 days. And we've talked about the suicide level. We talked about a lot of things. There's new research out talking about the lockdown. Great article in Reuters saying that this could have its own health consequences that would be huge. We talked about the suicide. 2008, 10,000 more suicides that year in the Great Recession. This could dwarf that. Numbers that would not be counted. all things you have to take into account. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. Job numbers today, awful. But we would take that next month, because next month, those numbers, and then the month after that, and those numbers could be ungodly. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
No need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Who is the fearless leader?
Fui!
Fui, fui, and double fui!
Boy, it's your language. This is a family show, remember?
Fui to families too!
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
The Paycheck Protection Plan, the new loan program for small businesses hit by the COVID-19 outbreak, goes into effect today. President Trump on Thursday at the White House.
Nearly $350 billion in loans will be available to small businesses, including sole proprietors. These loans are up to 100% forgivable as long as employers keep paying their workers.
The Trump administration is urging small businesses, those with 500 or fewer people, to contact lenders.
Yeah. So that's happening today. Job numbers, awful. And just the beginning of awful. Will they or won't they have a national shelter-in-place order? Is that possible? It is. Very much so. How long is this going to last? Nobody knows. If somebody knew that, they probably know a lot of other things. It's a guesstimate, and everybody's got a different timeline. Here's some good news, though. The Trump administration is expected to use federal stimulus packages to pay hospitals that treat the uninsured people with the new coronavirus, as long as they agree not to bill the patients or issue unexpected charges. The plan could be released today, later on. So we'll see how that goes. It's tough, people. It's tough. But there is good news, right? With all of this going on, there is good news out there that's coming. Treatments are being ramped up left, right, and center. They're looking at a lot of different things in the treatment world that possibly could help. We're getting into a position where I think over the coming weeks and months, we're going to find some stuff that's out there that is going to be able to mitigate this. So even if we continue to ramp up in the numbers, we're going to start to see some of that stuff tampered down, because we're going to find some treatments that are going to be successful. And that is good news. At the end of the day, though, this is going to be frustrating. It is. It is going to be frustrating because there is a situation where nobody knows the answer. Nobody knows the end date. Nobody knows what's coming next. Nobody knows what you can or can't do, depending on the state you're in, depending even at times the city you're in. I go across the street to work out in the day. I can do that. And I see that all of the equipment, like, so they've got like workout equipment. I go play soccer and run around, but all the equipment's roped off with caution tape in the playground. You can go 2 miles away to another city, and it's not like that. It's uncomfortable. It's ugly. Everybody knows that this is what we're going through.
This is Jim Ryan. Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer sums it up for many of us.
This is a challenge unlike anything we've ever faced before.
A new ABC News Ipsos poll reveals that 9 in 10 Americans have had their daily lives disrupted by COVID-19, and that fewer than half think they'll return to their regular routines by June 1st. 89% of us now worry that we or someone we know will be infected with the virus, up from 79% last month.
And I think we're getting to that point. So with all that frustration, all that disruption, got to do the best you can to have a smile on your face, laugh, don't go down a rabbit hole, Take walks, go for a run. If you've been thinking to yourself, you need to work out, then you know what? You need to work out. You need to work out. Take advantage of what's in front of you. And if you're working and you're still doing okay, shop as local as possible, because little businesses across the country need that. But the more we laugh, realize that we're all in this together, it will come to an end and we will be stronger. But it just isn't coming to an end tomorrow. Have a good rest of your weekend. Be safe. Be kind to each other. We will do it again on Monday. I promise you that. As always, night-night, Jack.
This is The Chad Benson Show.